Today is Monday, January 25th, 2016, and welcome to the Multifarious Man Podcast, episode 18, When No One Is Watching. As always, I am your host, Jay Vincent. You can follow me on Twitter at Multifarious Man, on Facebook at Multifarious Man Podcast 2015, and subscribe to the Multifarious Man Podcast blog at www.multifariousman.com. Now, on today's show, I'm going to talk about the books, TV shows, movies, and music that are on what I would call my wall of shame. Now, these are the things that I love but would be embarrassed if people knew. So, of course, I'm going to talk about it. So now you'll know. Now, this is the kind of things like if the dad that watches Powerpuff Girls without his kids, or the husband that reads 50 Shades of Grey in secret on his Kindle, or the professor that enjoys Joe Dirt. Now, I have my own embarrassing wall of shame, and today I'm happy to share it with you. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Very greatly diverse and manifold, all the things I want to say that never been told. Dina Sinatra to Drake and Pharrell. When I'm listening to this week, you can never tell. Bogey and Bacall, even Meryl Streep. The devil wears Prada, even the big sleep. It doesn't matter where you stand, I'm the multifarious man. All right, welcome back to the show, Multifarious Man Podcast, episode 18, When No One Is Watching. Now, first up, we're going to talk about what I'm reading, watching, and listening to this week. First up, what am I reading? I'm reading a book called In the Wind. Now, this is book number 2 in the Out of the Box series by Robert J. Crane. Now, I've said in previous episodes and mentioned in previous books, this book is about a world where metas exist. Metas, I guess, the nearest example are kind of like mutants. So they're people that have powers. And in the previous series, Girl in the Box, the world found out that these metas exist. So now this is 2 years after the events in the Girl in the Box series. And now we're catching back up with Sienna Nealon. And this is the second book in the Out of the Box series. In the last book, she was actually involved in a case in London, and now this is the next book in the series. So I'm excited to see what crazy adventures we can get into and see what dangers are around the corner. Now, next, what am I watching? This one I'm real excited about. In fact, last night, I watched episode 1 of The X-Files. Yes, my friends, The X-Files is back. Agent Mulder and Scully, they are back and in effect. So this is about 13 years after the last episode of the X-Files series. And I think probably the last we've seen of them was maybe 2008 when they had their last movie, I Want to Believe. So this takes place, today. And it starts off right away where they're pulled back into the X-Files. So the way the series starts, Mulder and Scully have been apart, I guess, for some time. So, in the last movie, they had been married. So it leads us to believe that in the time that's passed, they're no longer together. So now they're just being drawn back into another adventure, and of course it's conspiracy upon conspiracy upon conspiracy. And the way the show starts, David Duchovny's character, Agent Fox Mulder, kind of gives a narrative to kind of catch you up on what happened in the past, how he was involved in the X-Files, how long he was involved, and the different things that they encountered. So even if you're new to the X-Files and you've never seen any of the past episodes, I mean, aside from having a better understanding of the relationships between Mulder and Scully and some of the other people in the FBI, you can kind of hit the ground running. For fans of the show, it's great. And if you're new to the show, it kind of gets you started. So episode 1 was on Sunday night. And in fact, episode 2 is being shown today. So, at the time you listen to it, it was already shown. So I actually am looking forward, because I haven't watched it yet. I haven't watched episode 2, but this is going to be a 6-episode run. So again, the X-Files, if you haven't already got it in your DVR, I know on the Fox Go app, you can watch the episode the day after they show, or on your local cable networks on demand. So it's only 6 episodes, so you can kind of, if you have a long Saturday, you can probably watch the whole thing in one setting. So looking forward to see how it's playing out. No spoilers. Not going to tell you anything about what's going on other than the X-Files are being opened back up. Next up, what am I listening to? I'm listening to an artist called Andy Grammer, and he has an album that's out called Magazines and Novels. Now, this is the guy that had the song last year, Honey, I'm Good, which is the song about a guy that's out having drinks, and someone asks him if he wants another, and a woman's hitting on him. He's like, nah, I'm good. I got a girl at home. And most recently, he came out with the single Good to Be Alive. So Andy Grammer, and it's interesting, he actually sang the national anthem in one of the playoff games this weekend, one of the football games. So it's pretty interesting. It's a good album, nice listen to, good music. Kids can listen to it in the car too, so I don't have to edit anything out or change the channels when Andy Grammer comes on. So that's it. That's what I'm reading, watching, and listening to. Oh, before I forgot, last week's show, I mentioned that I was watching a show on Amazon Prime called Fortitude. All I can tell you is I finished watching all the episodes, and I'm blown away. Everything I thought about the show, it topped it. I thought I was just getting a mystery that happened to take place in a remote outpost in the Arctic, and the mystery, the trying to figure out who did what and why, it takes it beyond that. The feeling as you're watching each episode, as everything unfolds, it's kind of like the sense of dread and fear that you feel maybe when you watch The Thing, which also takes place at an Arctic outpost, or the first Alien, where the claustrophobic feel of something's out there, something's happening to people. You don't know what's doing it. You don't know where the danger is, but danger is right around the corner. As each episode unfolds, the danger to this town becomes more obvious. But again, still, you just don't know what's going on. And, each episode you learn a little bit more, and it, comes to a head in the final episode. And I'm actually glad to hear that the show's been picked up for a second season. So I'm telling you, check that out. It wasn't what I was really watching this week, because I finished it last week. But again, I just had to bring that up. Fortitude. And that's on Amazon Prime. All right. So when I come back, I guess I'm going to have to tell you about my wall of shame. So sit back, relax, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to episode 18 of the Multifarious Man podcast, when no one is watching. So, like I told you in the intro, wall of shame. So again, these are the shows, books, music that you listen to and you enjoy, but if someone pressed you and they asked you, you'd be like, nah, I've never seen that. I've never watched that. I don't listen to that. But these are, like the songs that you listen to in the car when no one's around and you're singing. And then if you pull up to a stoplight, you turn the music down immediately or change the channel because you don't want anyone to know. In fact, makes me think of that viral video that's going around on YouTube of that police officer that's singing along to Taylor Swift. And every time in the video he comes upon someone in the neighborhood, he stops, lip singing the song and just kind of points to him and nods, and then kind of looks back and sees that they can't see him anymore, and then he gets right into it. These are the type of things that would make this list. This is, of course, my wall of shame. So I'll start it off with kind of these shows, these television shows, they kind of can fit into the same category. They all kind of fit into what we would call soap operas. Some of them are very specifically soap operas, and I'm not saying I still watch them today. I don't. But there was a time when I pretty much watched these shows all the time, recorded them every day, came home, watched them, and, fast forwarded through the commercials. This was before the days of DVRs. This was me taping on VCR every day. And, of course, my wife now laughs about it. So when we were first dating, really? This is what you're watching? I don't care. Not embarrassed. So soap operas, and, for me, it was the ABC soap operas. So everything from General Hospital to One Life to Live, All My Children, even some of the spinoffs like Loving and The City. Yes, I did watch it, and I even stuck with Loving when they went down a storyline that involved vampires. Yes, I did. I admit it. Sorry. But if I could last through all the years of General Hospital with Luke and Laura and all their crazy nonsense, and the Cassadines, including their weather machine. Yes, weather machine. So, of course, all the things that people make fun of with soap operas, they had them on these shows. All My Children, One Life to Live. Oh, goodness. All My Children, of course, had, the two main twins. You had Adam, which was the main, bad guy foil on the show, and his twin brother, Stuart. So, of course, same actor playing two parts. So it was the good twin and the evil twin. One Life to Live had a long storyline with the same thing. General Hospital had mobsters, gangsters, people coming back to life, people dying off and then coming back looking different because, of course, it's a new actor playing the part. I loved every single minute of it. And growing up, I used to watch them with my sister, and watched them when I was in college too. Didn't care. Had to know what was going on next. And if a lot of these shows were still on, I think some of them might just be online only. If I watched them today, I bet you within 10 minutes, I could figure out what the storyline is and who's good, who's bad, and, what's going on. So when I'm at the checkout aisle at the supermarket and I see pictures from some of the soaps, I laugh when they mention storylines and things that are still happening after all these years. But yes, did love them, and I don't care who knows. Enjoyed the shows, and I'll make fun of the CBS and NBC shows like, Guiding Light and Days of Our Lives. Yes, I know the names of them. Sorry, my grandmother used to watch them, and when I was babysat by her, I had no choice. So I didn't watch them, but yeah, I know who they are. Now, staying in that same type of genre, you also have your nighttime, or primetime soap operas. So yes, I can say here, even though if anyone asked me, I'd always say, I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I used to watch 90210 and Melrose Place. Not the latest 90210 on CW or whatever. No, the original with, Brenda and Brandon, the Walshes, moved from Minnesota to, Beverly Hills or West Beverly. I always forget if it's Beverly versus West Beverly, and all the silliness that ensued. There were characters I hated, characters I liked, but watched them all. Even Melrose Place, which, took it to the next level. Once Heather Locklear joined Melrose Place, yeah, I watched it from the beginning before she was on it. And then when they brought her on, it kind of went to the next level. Still, the best scene ever is when the crazy lady, I can't remember her name, blew up the apartment building. Yep, I remember that. Saw that one when it first came on. Didn't record that. Watched it when it first showed. So yes, I did enjoy Melrose Place and 90210. And before that, probably in the 80s, I used to watch Dynasty, another show my sister used to watch with me. And I'm starting to think maybe she forced me to watch these shows and I only watched them so we'd have something to talk about. Yeah, that's it. It wasn't me wanting to watch the shows. I only watched them because my sister made me. She bullied me into watching them, and that's my story, and I am sticking to it. But Dexter from Dynasty eventually became a character on All My Children. In fact, he married Erica, one of her 20 husbands. So yeah, I know who's who and what's what. But hey, they're enjoyable for a reason. It's, popcorn television. I guess today the equivalent would be people that watch How to Get Away with Murder and what's the other one? The other Shonda Rhimes show. Scandal and Grey's Anatomy. So that's probably equivalent to the shows I used to watch back in the day. Probably just as much over the top. And from what I see on Twitter, when people are talking about these shows, they're just as over the top as the soap operas from when I was younger. So, yes, I can make fun of people that watch them today, but yeah, I used to watch shows just like it when I was younger. Now, also on that list, staying in the television realm, would also be Felicity. Yeah, I did watch it when it was on, and still love Kerry Russell to this day. Still mad at her for cutting hair. Worst decision ever. Ruined the show as far as I'm concerned. But it was an enjoyable show. It was melodramatic. I thought it was quite silly that someone would follow someone all the way across the country. Someone that you have a crush on, that you're in love with. You'd follow them across the city just to possibly have a chance. Yeah, Felicity, I thought that was foolish that you did it. But so what? Yeah, the show was enjoyable, as silly as it was, as silly as the premise was. I still watched it, still talked about it at the water cooler, which is, what we talked about things at back then. I don't think anyone even has water coolers in offices anymore. But regardless, Felicity is on my list. Now, what else is on my list? Okay. The movie Center Stage. Yes, this is a movie that is about ballet. So it's about a ballet school and people struggling to get into the school. And then once they are in the school, struggling to be the best. I like the movie. It's fun. It's silly. Don't know anything about the world of ballet. But the characters are enjoyable. The things they go through, the backbiting, the backstabbing. So sue me. I enjoy it. Center Stage. That's one that's on my list. I forgot. More recent television, One Tree Hill. To this day, I'm probably a fan of oh goodness, I'm drawing a blank. The guy who wrote the song for One Tree Hill that I don't wanna be whatever. I'll put it in the show notes because I really can't think of his name right now. But yes, I did watch that show and every week wanted to know what was going on with Peyton and the other characters on it. And for some reason, I can't think of any of their names right now. I know one of the ladies from One Tree Hill is on that Chicago PD now. So, sue me. I enjoyed it. It was silly. The things they got involved with, I'm like, really? High school? I don't remember high school being like that, with, secrets. Well, yeah, there were secrets and lies, but it weren't people that had the affair, and then there's the stepbrother and trying to get along with the half-brother and living in the same town, and there's a basketball team, and there's music, and there's all kind of craziness that happened in the world of One Tree Hill. But I did enjoy it. Moira Kelly from the Cutting Edge fame. Ooh, that's one I almost forgot on my list. Cutting Edge. Very good movie about figure skating. with D.B. Sweeney and Moira Kelly. I actually saw that one in the movie theaters, and I clapped when those two crazy kids fell in love. Even though you knew going in that they were going to fall in love because they were opposite. Didn't matter. Very good movie, and I watch it every time it comes on. Doesn't matter what time it is. And anytime I go skating, roller skating, because I don't ice skate, and I see someone fall, I say, toe pick. Yes, anyone that's seen the movie will understand that reference. And if you haven't, you should go check it out. It's probably streaming somewhere, or you could probably get it from Redbox or what's the other one, on Netflix, DVD in the mail. Staying in the movies and TV, another one that I'm enjoying recently, I'm embarrassed to say, is Outlander. I came upon this series on Stars. There's really no other way to say it. It's a romance, a time travel romance. So a lady from World War II somehow ends up back in I want to say the 1600s in Scotland. And I'm, as I watch the show and, she meets somebody and she falls in love, it's actually interesting. So now I'm going to have to read the books. My wife read the first book and enjoyed it. So I'm going to have to read the series now that I'm hooked. Outlander. Yes, I'm ashamed to say. And no, talking about romance books, no, I've never read 50 Shades of Grey. Have no interest in reading 50 Shades of Grey. But my wife read them and she told me about them. So that's the only reason I know about them. And anytime there's a pop reference or someone mentions something from them, that's the only reason I know about them. Not because I read them myself. Because I'd tell you if I did. Now, sticking with, romance novels, I can kind of go back a little bit further in time. In the 80s, I read the book I'll Take Manhattan by Judith Krantz, who's a romance novelist. And the reason I read it was because there was a miniseries. Now, I can't remember if it was on Lifetime, because Lifetime may not have been around back then. It might have just been on network TV. But the reason I was interested in it is because it starred Valerie Bertinelli, who I had a crush on since the days of One Day at a Time. And she starred in this series that, from what I remember, she inherited her father's company. And there was something suspicious about the way he died. And I believe the father was played by Barry Bostwick, who went on to fame. People probably remember him as the mayor from Spin City. So he was in it also, I believe, definitely Valerie Bertinelli. And I just remember the story about her struggle to keep her father's business. I enjoyed the miniseries so much that I went out and read the book, and I enjoyed it, and it was good. So sue me. It's my wall. Shame, not yours. Next on the romance novel books, and I've probably read more than a few Sidney Sheldon novels, but one particular I remember reading was Morning, Noon, and Night. Read that in the late 80s. It's your typical dramatic story. It's not Harlequin, which I don't read, but it's, guy meets girl, and you don't know if they're going to get together, and there's some, intimate details in it, some mature scenes, to say the least. But if I was reading it today, I'd have to read it on a Kindle, or I'd have to read it I'd have to have a book cover so no one could see what it was. So, yes, Morning, Noon, and Night by Sidney Sheldon. I do recommend it. It was a good book. I can't really remember much about it. I just remember sneaking to read it in the library and, back when I was in school, and making sure no one saw that I was reading it. Now, back into the world of television, and I know I mentioned in the intro someone that might watch the Powerpuff Girls. No, I didn't watch the Powerpuff Girls, and I still don't watch the Powerpuff Girls. But, however, I did watch a couple of Nickelodeon cartoons, And I don't care what anybody says. These were not made for kids. These are adult cartoons. And the first is Avatar, The Last Airbender. Now, I'm not talking about the M. Night Shyamalan movie, which was horrible. Don't see it ever. But I'm talking about the actual series about Aang, The Last Airbender. It's an enjoyable story. I recommend watching all seasons from the beginning so you can see the development of the characters in the beginning all the way through the end. Each book, so each season is called a book. And they kind of focus on the different kingdoms: Earth, Water, Air, and Fire Nation. It's a wonderful, big scale adventure. It's your classic adventure story to developing a hero against the evil Fire Nation. I watched it more than once, and the second time I watched it was because a new series was coming out, which is also on my wall of shame. It's The Legend of Korra. This takes place about a century after the events in the Last Airbender, the Avatar Last Airbender. And there's a new airbender. There's a new avatar, Korra. So she's the protagonist. And again, another reluctant hero. And it takes her through the events of learning to take on, the big evil and everything that comes with it. And has some very mature storylines. It deals with a lot of different things and, war and the impact of war on different communities and, people that go along with it and people that, your collaborators or your rebels, and how the things people do. I mean, I think what they always say, even the best villains, they're the hero of their own story. So seeing how people do things and how it impacts their families and, the impact of legacy and what it means and friendship and love, definitely check it out. Legend of Korra. Yes, it's a cartoon and it's on my wall of shame, but if you watch it, you'll understand, and, maybe it'll end up on your wall of shame too. So that's it. That's my list. I'm sure there's many more things out there that I probably can't even think about right now. I mean, something just popped to mind. I like Vanilla Ice's Ice Ice Baby. When it comes on, I sing along to it. I know the entire rap. So what? It's a good song. And it stands up to this day. Yeah, so what? He sampled Pressure by the Stones. Doesn't matter. It's a really good song. It's, everyone knows that. Vanilla Ice Ice Baby. Doom 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 da doom doom. Doom 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 da doom doom. That's it. That's the last of my wall of shame. I'm sure, if you send me your feedback, send me your emails to multifarious.man.podcast@gmail.com. Add comments to the multifariousman.com blog page. Let me know what you think. Follow me at multifariousman on Twitter. Let me know what's on your wall of shame. What are the shows, the music that you listen to, the shows that you watch, the books that you read that you're embarrassed for anyone to know, but you enjoy them and they're on the top of your list. You just don't write that list down. And I'll maybe mention them on future episodes or maybe talk about them in future episodes. But again, that's it. When no one's watching, episode 18. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show. Again, this is Jay Vincent and the Multifarious Man Podcast. All right, we're back on the Multifarious Man Podcast, episode 18, When No One's Watching. Thank you again for tuning into the show. I enjoyed sharing with you my wall of shame. Again, all the things that I enjoy, that I'm a little embarrassed that I enjoy them, but I enjoy them nonetheless. Let me know what you think. send me your list, and we'll compare notes. Now, I'm excited to say coming up on next week's episode 19, that'll be released next Monday. I have an interview with Dalton Stanley, who's actually a member of a local band here in Jacksonville called Blind Mason. So, we got together this week and, did an interview. And it went some pretty interesting places. Got to learn a little bit about, his background, how the band was developed, and some future things that are going to be happening. So looking forward to sharing that with you next week. Again, Dalton Stanley from the band Blind Mason, and that will be on next Monday's episode 19. So again, thank you again for listening to the show. As I always say, why just be various when you can be multifarious? Peace. I'm out. Numerous and varied, greatly diverse and manifold. All the things I want to say that never been told. Dina Sinatra to Drake and Pharrell. When I'm listening to this week, you can never tell. Bogey and Bacall, even Meryl Streep. The devil wears Prada, even the big sleep. It doesn't matter where you stand, I'm the multifarious man. Come in.